Hey Krishna, everybody, welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. And it's turning into an epic event. We're going on now to the 85th chapter of Srimad-Bhagavatam, and it's just getting sweeter and sweeter and deeper, and there's no end to it. All right, Sanatana Goswami had something to say about that. Srimad-Bhagavatam Mahima Stotram, the beautiful prayers he offered in glorification of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, which is the Summum Bonum and the sound vibration that delivered us the pastimes of Krishna. So here's his glorification. Sarva Shastrabdipi Yusha Sarva Lokaika Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidwandodita Ditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshaksharayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguro Man Mahadana Man Nistadaga Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu sadhu tadayin atinichuchatakara hanamuncha kadachin mam premna rit kantayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we reached the 85th chapter of the 10th canto. Lord Krishna instructs Vasudeva and retrieves Devaki's sons. This chapter relates how Lord Krishna imparted divine knowledge to his father, and along with Lord Balaram, retrieved his mother's dead sons. Having heard the visiting sages glorify Krishna, Vasudeva ceased to regard him and Balaram as his sons and began praising their omnipotence, omnipresence, and omniscience as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. After glorifying his sons, Vasudeva fell at Lord Krishna's lotus feet and begged him to drive away the conception that the Lord was his son. Instead, Lord Krishna restored that conception by instructing Vasudeva in the science of Godhead. And upon hearing these instructions, Vasudeva became peaceful and free of doubt. Then Mother Devaki praised Krishna and Balaram, reminding them how they had retrieved the dead son of their spiritual master. She said, "Please fulfill my desire in the same way. Please bring back my sons who were killed by Kamsa, so that I may see them once again." Entreated in this way by their mother, the two lords went to the subterranean planet of Sutala, where they approached Bali Maharaj. King Bali greeted them respectfully, offering them seats of honor, worshipping them, and reciting prayers. Krishna and Balaram then requested Bali to return Devaki's dead sons. The lords received the boys from Bali and returned them to Devaki, who felt such a surge of affection for them that milk began spontaneously flowing from her breasts. Overjoyed, Devaki fed the children her breast milk, and by drinking the remnants of milk once drunk by Lord Krishna himself, they gained their original forms as demigods and went back to heaven. Text 1. Shri Badrayani said, one day, the two sons of Vasudeva, Sankara and Achyuta, came to pay him respects, bowing down at his feet. Vasudeva greeted them with great affection and spoke to them. Text 2. Having heard the great sage's words concerning the power of his two sons, and having seen their valorous deeds, Vasudeva became convinced of their divinity. Thus, addressing them by name, he spoke to them as follows. 3. Vasudeva said, O Krishna, Krishna, best of yogis, O eternal Sankarshan, I know that you too are personally the source of universal creation and the ingredients of creation as well. Purport. As taught by the Sankhya doctrine of Lord Kapiladev, Pradhan is the creative energy of the Purusha, the Supreme Person. Thus, of these two principles, the Pradhan is the predominated energy, female, incapable of independent action, while the Purusha is the absolutely independent, primeval creator and enjoyer. Neither Krishna nor his brother Balaram belong to the category of subordinate energy. Rather, both of them together are the original Purusha, who is always joined by his manifold potencies of pleasure, knowledge, and creative emanation. Text 4. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who manifest as the Lord of both nature and the Creator of nature, Mahavishnu. Everything that comes into existence, however and whenever it does, is created within you, by you, from you, for you, and in relation to you. Purport. To casual observers, the known world appears to be produced by many different agents. A good indication of this conception is language itself, which traditional Sanskrit grammarians explain as reflecting the visible diversity of nature. In the standard Sanskrit grammar taught by the sage Panini, the verb expressing action is taken to be the essential core of a sentence. And of all other words and all the other words function in relation to it. Nouns, for example, are put into any of several cases to show their particular relationship to the verb in a sentence. These relationships of noun to verb are called karakas, namely the relations of subject, karta, who does, object, karma, what is done, instrument, karana, by which, recipient, sampradana, for or toward which, source, apadana, from or because of which, and location, adhikarana, in which. Apart from these karakas, nouns may also sometimes point to other nouns in a possessive sense, and there are also various kinds of adverbs of time, place, and manner. But although language thus seems to indicate the activity of many separate agents in the manifest creation, the deeper truth is that all grammatical forms refer first of all to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this verse, Vasudeva makes this point by glorifying his two exalted sons in terms of the different grammatical forms. Text 5. O Transcendental Lord, from yourself, this entire variegated universe, and then you entered within it in your personal form as the Supersoul. In this way, O unborn Supreme Soul, as the life force and consciousness of everyone, you maintain the creation. Purport. When creating the material universe, the Lord expands himself as the Paramatma, or Supersoul, and accepts the creation as his universal body. No material body has any reason for existing without some Jiva soul desiring it for his enjoyment. And no Jiva can independently maintain a body without the Paramatma accompanying him there for guidance. But Hare Krishna, Hare Bol Bhakti Dag. The Vaishnava Acharyas, in their commentaries on the second canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam, explain that even before Brahma is born from the lotus navel of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. Thank you. You're very kind. Hare Krishna. The Vaishnava Acharyas, in their commentaries on the second canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam, explain that even before Brahma is born from the lotus navel of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, he first accepts the whole material energy, the Mahat Tattva, as his body. Thus Brahma is the Jiva embodied by the universe, and Vishnu is the Paramatma who joins him. Brahma must organize the specific manifestations of creation, but he cannot begin to do so until Lord Vishnu expands himself again into the subtle energy of action, which is the Sutra Tattva, or original vital air, and also into the creative energy of consciousness, Buddhi Tattva. How much more interesting is this than what's going on in the UN or the political system of this country or that country? How much more interesting and deep is this? Text 6. Whatever potencies of life, the life air and other elements of universal creation exhibit are actually all personal energies of the Supreme Lord. For both life and matter are subordinate to him and dependent on him, and also different from one another. Thus, everything active in the material world is set into motion by the Supreme Lord. Purport. Prana is the vital life of air. Prana is a vital air of life, a more subtle element than the ordinary air we can touch. And because prana is so subtle, finer than the tangible manifestations of creation, it is sometimes considered the ultimate source of everything. But even subtle energies, such as prana, depend for their functional capacity on the supremely subtle Paramatma. That is the idea Vasudeva expresses here by the word paratantriyat, because of dependence. Just as the velocity of an arrow is derived from the strength of the bowman and who shoots it, so all subordinate energies depend on the power of the Supreme Lord. Furthermore, even when various subtle causes have been empowered with their capacity to act, they cannot act in concert without the Supersoul's coordinating direction. As Lord Brahma states in his description of creation in the second canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam, Yadaite sangata bhava bhutendriya manogunaha yada yatana nirmane na shikur brahmabhitama tada sanghat yachanyonyam bhagavach chakti chodichaha sat asvatam upadaya chubhayam Sasrijur Yadaha. O Narada, best of the transcendentalists, the forms of the body cannot manifest as long as these created parts, namely the elements, senses, mind, and modes of nature, are not assembled. Thus, when all these become assembled by the force of the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this universe certainly came into being by accepting both the primary and secondary causes of creation. That's the Bhagavatam 2:32 and 33. 32 to 33. Text 7. The glow of the moon, the brilliance of fire, the radiance of the sun, the twinkling of the stars, the flash of lightning, the permanence of mountains, and the aroma and sustaining power of the earth, all these are actually you. Purport. Sri Vasudeva, in telling Krishna that he is the essence of the sun, moon, stars, lightning, and fire, is only reiterating the opinion of Scripture, both Shruti and Smriti. The Shvetasvatara Upanishad 6.14, for example, states, Natatra suryo bhatina chandra tarakam nema vidyuto bantikuto yamagnihi tam eva bantam anubhati sarvam tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. There, in the spiritual sky, the sun does not shine, nor does the moon, the stars, or lightning as we know them. What to speak of ordinary fire? It is by the reflection of the spiritual sky's effulgence that everything else gives light. And thus, through its radiance, this entire universe becomes luminous. And in Srimad-Bhagavatam 15:12, the Supreme Lord says, Yad adityagatam tejo jagat basayate kilam yach chandamisi tach chagnau tat tejo vidimamakam. The splendor of the sun, which dissipates the darkness of this whole world, comes from me. And the splendor of the moon and the splendor of fire also come from me. Text 8. My Lord, you are water, and also its taste, and its capacities to quench thirst and sustain life. You exhibit your potencies through the manifestations of the air as bodily warmth, vitality, mental power, physical strength, endeavor, and movement. Text 9. You are the directions and their accommodating capacity, the all-pervading ether and the elemental sound residing within it. You are the primeval, unmanifested form of sound, the first syllable, Om, the audible speech by which sound as words acquires particular references. Purport. In accordance with the general process of creation, speech always becomes audible in stages, which proceed from subtle inner impulse to outward expression. These stages are mentioned in the mantras of the Rig Veda 164, 45. Chatvardi vak parimita padani tani bidur brahmana ye manishina guhayam trini nihitani nengayanti turiyam vacho manusha vadanti. Discriminating brahmanas know of 4 progressive stages of language. 3 of these remain hidden within the heart as imperceptible vibrations, while the 4th stage is what people ordinarily understand as speech. Text 10. You are the power of the senses to reveal their objects, the senses presiding demigods, and the sanction these demigods give for sensory activity. You are the capacity of the intelligence for decision-making and the living being's ability to remember things accurately. How intelligent is Vasudeva? Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti points out that whenever one of the material senses is involved with its object, the presiding demigod of that particular sense organ must give his sanction. Acharya Vishwanath Chakravarti explains the word anusmriti in this verse in its higher sense as one's recognition of himself as an eternal spirit soul. Text 11. The first manifestation of this potency is when you can actually perceive that the pain and pleasure you're going through doesn't reach you. When something happens bad to you and you don't feel unhappy. Translation. You are false ego in the mode of ignorance, which is the source of the physical elements. False ego in the mode of passion, which is the source of the bodily senses. False ego in the mode of goodness, which is the source of the demigods. And the unmanifest, total material energy, which underlies everything. Text 12. You are the one indestructible entity among all the destructible things of this world, like the underlying substance that is seen to remain unchanged while the things made from it undergo transformations. 13. The modes of material nature, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance, together with all their functions, become directly manifest within you, the Supreme Absolute Truth, by the arrangement of your Yogamaya. Purport. Vasudeva's description of how the Supreme Lord expands himself into the products of the three material modes may possibly be misunderstood to imply that he is touched by the modes, or even that he is subject to destruction. To negate these misunderstandings, Vasudeva states here that the three modes and their products function by the arrangement of the Lord's creative energy, Yogamaya, who is always completely under his control. Thus the Lord is never tainted in the least by any material contact. Text 14. Thus these created entities, transformations of material nature, do not exist except when material nature manifests them within you, at which time you also manifest within them. But aside from such periods of creation, you stand alone as the transcendental reality. Purport. When the universe, anybody that has common sense even, if they hear this, they'll say, oh, that's what the Bible was talking about, or that was the Quran talking about, or that's what, because it's given the details of what omniscience and omnipotence and omnipresence is. Purport. When the universe is wound up at the time of its periodic annihilation, all the inert objects and bodies of living beings that hitherto were manifested by the Lord's Maya become disconnected from his sight. Then, since he maintains no association with them during the period of universal dissolution, they in fact no longer exist. In other words, material manifestations have real functioning existence only when the Lord turns his attention to the creation and maintenance of the material cosmos. The Lord is never within these objects in any material sense, but he does mercifully pervade them all as the impersonal Brahman. And as the Paramatma, he enters within every atom and also accompanies the jiva souls in their individual embodiments. As the Lord described words in the verses of Bhagavad Gita 9, 4 and 5, Maya tatamidang sarvam jagat avyaktamurtina matstani sarvabhutani nachaham te shavastitaha, nachedmat stani bhutani, pashyame yogamaishwaram, bhuta brinna cha bhutasto, mamatma bhuta bhavanaha. By me, in my unmanifest form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. And yet, everything that is created does not rest in me. Behold my mystic opulence. Although I am the maintainer of these, and although I am everywhere, I am not part of this cosmic manifestation, for myself is the very source of creation. Text 15. They are truly ignorant who, while imprisoned within the ceaseless flow of this world's material qualities, failed to know you, the Supreme Soul of all that be, as their ultimate, sublime destination. Because of their ignorance, the entanglement of material work forces such souls to wander in the cycle of birth and death. Purport. A soul who forgets his true identity as a servant of God is sent to this world to be imprisoned in a succession of material bodies. Wrongly identifying himself with these bodies, such a conditioned soul suffers the consequent distress of karmic action and reaction. Vasudeva, as a compassionate Vaishnava, laments for the suffering conditioned souls, whose unhappiness, the result of ignorance, can be remedied by knowledge of the principles of devotional service to Lord Krishna. Text 16. By good fortune, a soul may obtain a healthy human life, an opportunity rarely achieved. But if he is nonetheless deluded about what is best for him, O Lord, your illusory Maya will cause him to waste his entire life. Text 17. You keep this whole world bound up by the ropes of affection, and thus when people consider their material bodies, they think, this is me. And when they consider their progeny and other relations, they think, these are mine. Text 18. You are not our sons, but the very lords of both material nature and its creator, Mahavishnu. As you yourself have told us, you have descended to rid the earth of the rulers who are a heavy burden upon her. Purport. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti, in this verse, Vasudeva offers himself and his wife as excellent examples of those who are materially deluded. Although at the time of his birth in Kamsa's prison, Lord Krishna told Vasudeva and Devaki that his mission was to rid the earth of unwanted Kshatriyas, still his two parents could not avoid thinking of him as their helpless son who needed protection from King Kamsa. In reality, of course, both Vasudeva and Devaki were participating in the divine pastime of the Lord's birth under the perfect direction of his internal energy. Only out of transcendental humility does Vasudeva criticize himself in this way. Text 19. Therefore, O friend of the distressed, I now approach your lotus feet for shelter. The same lotus feet that dispel all fear of worldly existence for those who have surrendered to them. Enough. Enough with hankering for sense enjoyment, which makes me identify with this mortal body and think of you, the Supreme, as my child. Purport. Srila Jiva Goswami suggests that Vasudeva condemns himself here for thinking of trying to gain special opulences because he is the father of the Supreme Lord. Thus Vasudeva contrasts himself with Nanda, the king of Braja, who was satisfied with pure love of God and nothing else. Text 20. Indeed, while still in the maternity room, you told us that you, the unborn Lord, had already been born several times as our son in previous ages. After manifesting each of these transcendental bodies to protect your own principles of religion, you then made them unmanifest, thus appearing and disappearing like a cloud. O supremely glorified, all-pervading Lord, who can understand the mystic, deluding potency of your opulent expansions? Lord Krishna was first born to Vasudeva and Devaki in their previous lives as Sutapa and Prishni. Later they again became his parents as Kashyapa and Aditi. This then was the third time he had appeared as their son. Text 21. Shukadeva Goswami said, having heard his father's words, the Supreme Lord, leader of the Sattvatas, replied in a gentle voice as he bowed his head in humility and smiled. Purport. Srila Jiva Goswami describes what Lord Krishna thought after hearing his father glorify him. Vasudeva has been honored with the eternal role of my father, sometimes even demigods like Brahma. Okay, we need a long A. Make a note. Somebody make a note. We need a long A for that Brahma. Somebody has a book? Does the book have a long A?
Yes.
It does. Okay, it's just the database. Therefore, he shouldn't be absorbed in thinking of my godly aspects. Moreover, his reverence greatly embarrasses me. It was to avoid this very situation that after killing Kamsa, I made a special effort to reinforce their pure parental love for me and Balaram. But now, unfortunately, the statements of these sages threaten to revive some of Vasudeva's and Devaki's previous awareness of my majesty. Text 22. The Supreme Lord said, my dear father, I consider your statements appropriate, since you have explained the various categories of existence by referring to us, your sons. Purport. Posing as Vasudeva's dependent son, Lord Krishna expresses gratitude for his father's edifying instructions. 23. Not only I, but also you, along with my respected brother and these residents of Dwarka, should all be considered in this same philosophical light, O best of the Yadus. Indeed, we should include all that exists, both moving and non-moving. Purport. To protect his parents' intimate relationship with him, Lord Krishna stresses the oneness of all existence in this statement to his father, Vasudeva. Vasudeva had been reminded of his son's greatness by hearing the sages gathered at Kurukshetra, but his sense of awe was ruining his intimate parental relationship with Krishna, and therefore Krishna wanted to dispel it. We should not misunderstand the oneness Lord Krishna speaks of here. The subtle words of the Upanishads often mislead impersonalists into believing that all existence is ineffably one, without any variety in the ultimate sense, an ultimate issue. Some Upanishadic mantras emphasize the sameness of God and His creation, while others speak about their difference. Tat tvam asi shvetaketo. You are that, O Shvetaketu. For example, is in Abheda Vakya, a mantra affirming that all things are one with God being His dependent expansions. But the Upanishads also contain many Veda Vakyas, statements that affirm the unique, distinguishing qualities of the Supreme, such as this statement, Ka evan yad ka pranaya yad esha akasha anando nasyat esha eva nandayati. Who would be there to activate the creation and give life to all beings if this infinite supreme were not the original enjoyer? Indeed, he alone is the source of all pleasure. Taittiriya Upanishad. Bewildering Maya, envious impersonalists read the Abhedabhakyas literally and accept the Vedabhakyas only in a figurative way. Authoritative Vaishnava commentators, on the other hand, carefully reconcile the apparent contradictions in accordance with the interpretive principles of the Vedic Mimamsa and the logically established conclusions of Vedanta. This is Gopi Pradhanana Prabhu's. Right. I was honored by the privilege of being on a phone call with Hridayananda Maharaj and the BBT trustees, and in that phone call he was explaining to them how it was done. The 10th canto was finished, and he explained that past text, chapter 60, he withdrew for different reasons, and Gopi Pradhanana finished it from chapter 60 onwards. Text 24. The Supreme Spirit, Paramatma, is indeed one. He is self-luminous and eternal, transcendental, and devoid of material qualities. But although the agency of the very modes he has created, the one supreme truth manifests as many among the expansions of those modes. Text 25. The elements of ether, air, fire, water, and earth become visible, invisible, minute, or extensive as they manifest in various objects. Similarly, the Paramatma, though one, appears to become many. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti explains this in the previous verse as follows. Paramatma appears to be many by the influence of the modes of nature, and he himself creates. How is that? Because although in truth the Paramatma is self-illuminating, eternal, aloof from everything, and free of the modes of nature, when he appears as his manifestations, he seems to be just the opposite, a multiplicity of temporary objects saturated with the modes of nature. Just as the elements of ether and so on, when manifesting in pots and other things, seem to appear and disappear, so the Paramatma seems to appear and disappear in his various manifestations. Text 26. Shukadev Goswami said, O King, hearing these instructions spoken to him by the Supreme Lord, Vasudeva became freed from all ideas of duality. Satisfied at heart, he remained silent. 27 and 28. At that time, O best of the Kurus, the universally worshipped Devaki took the opportunity to address her two sons, Krishna and Balaram. Previously, she had heard with astonishment that they had brought their spiritual master's son back from death. Now, thinking of her own sons, who had been murdered by Kamsa, she felt great sorrow, and thus with tear-filled eyes, she beseeched Krishna and Balaram. Purport. Vasudeva's love for Krishna had been disturbed because his awareness of Krishna's opulences conflicted with seeing him as his son. In a different way, Devaki's love was somewhat distracted by her lamentation for her dead sons. So Krishna arranged to relieve her of the mistaken idea that anyone else but him was actually her son. Since Devaki is known to be worshipped by all great souls, her show of maternal affection must actually have been an effect of the Lord's Yogamaya, who increases the pleasure of his pastimes. Thus, in text 54, Devaki will be described as Mohita Mayaya Vishnu, bewildered by the internal energy of Lord Vishnu. Text 29. Sri Devaki said, O Rama, Rama, immeasurable Supreme Soul, O Krishna, Lord of all masters of yoga, I know that you are the ultimate rulers of all universal creators, the primeval personalities of Godhead. Text 30. Taking birth from me, you have now descended to this world in order to kill those kings whose good qualities have been destroyed by the present age, and to thus defy the authority of revealed scriptures and burden the earth. Text 31. O soul of all that be, the creation, maintenance, and destruction of the universe are all carried out by a fraction of an expansion of your expansion. Today I have come to take shelter of you, the Supreme Lord. Poor Krishna is having a hard time convincing them that it's not his son. That he is his son, rather, sorry. Purport. Srila Sridhar Swami explains this verse as follows. The Lord of Vaikuntha, Narayana, is but one expansion of Sri Krishna. Mahavishnu, the first creator, is Lord Narayana's expansion. The total material energy emanates from Mahavishnu's glands, and of that total material energy, the three modes of nature are divided portions. Thus it is Sri Krishna, acting through his expansions, who generates, sustains, and dissolves the universe. 32-33. It is said that when your spiritual master ordered you to retrieve his long-dead son, you brought him back from the forefathers' abode and a remuneration for your Guru's mercy. Please fulfill my desire in the same way, O Supreme Masters of all Yoga Masters. Please bring back my sons who were killed by the king of Bhoja, so that I may see them once again. Yeah, try shutting the door at the end of the hallway. Text 34. Translation. The sage Shukadeva said, thus entreated by their mother, O Balaram and Krishna, Yogamaya potency, and entered the region of Sutala. 35. When the king of the Daityas, Bali Maharaj, noticed the arrival of the two lords, his heart overflowed with joy, since he knew them to be the Supreme Soul and worshipable deity of the entire universe, and especially of himself. He immediately stood up and then bowed down to offer respects, along with his entire entourage. Text 36. Bali took pleasure in offering them elevated seats. After they sat down, he washed the feet of the two Supreme Personalities. Then he took that water, which purifies the whole world, even up to Lord Brahma, and poured it upon himself and his followers. 37. He worshipped them with all the riches at his disposal, priceless clothing, ornaments, fragrant sandalwood, paste, betel nut, lamps, sumptuous food, and so on. Thus he offered them all his family's wealth and also his own self. Purport. Bali Maharaj's devotional attitude is renowned as the perfect example of complete self-surrender. When Lord Vishnu, in the guise of a young Brahmana student, approached him for charity, Bali offered all he possessed, and when he had nothing more to offer, he surrendered himself as the Supreme Lord's eternal servant. There are 9 standard processes of devotional service, and the last, Atma Samarpanam, as taught by Bali Daityaraj, is the culmination toward which every endeavor should aim. If one tries to impress the Lord with wealth, power, intelligence, and so on, but fails to humbly understand oneself to be a servant, one's so-called devotion is only a presumptuous show. Text 38. Taking hold of the Lord's lotus feet again and again, Bali, the conqueror of Indra's army, spoke from his heart, which was melting out of his intense love. O king, as tears of ecstasy filled his eyes and the hair on his limbs stood on end, he began to speak with faltering words. Purport. Srila Prabhupada describes this scene as follows in Krsna. King Bali was feeling such transcendental pleasure that he repeatedly grasped the Lord's lotus feet and kept them on his chest. Sometimes he put them on the top of his head. In this way, he felt transcendental bliss. Tears of love and affection began to flow from his eyes, and all his bodily hairs stood on end. Text 39. King Bali said, obeisances to the unlimited Lord, Ananta, the greatest of all beings, and obeisances to Lord Krishna, the creator of the universe, who appears as the impersonal absolute and the supersoul in order to disseminate the principles of Sankhya and Yoga. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti identifies the Supreme Ananta named here as Lord Balaram, from whom expands the divine serpent, Ananta Shesha. Impersonal Brahman is the source of the texts belonging to the Sankhya philosophers, while the personal representation of the Lord, known as Paramatma, disseminates the textbooks of yoga. Text 40. Seeing you, Lords, is a rare achievement for most living beings, but even persons like us, situated in the modes of passion and ignorance, can easily see you when you reveal yourself by your own sweet will. Purport. By ascribing to himself the degraded status of a demoniac birth, Bali Maharaj denied any spiritual qualification for being visited by Krishna and Balaram. What to speak of demons like himself, Bali thought. Even advanced renunciants on the paths of jnana and yoga fail to please the Lord when they do not give up their pride and envy. Text 41 to 43. Many who had you ultimately became attracted to you, who are the direct embodiment of transcendental goodness, and whose divine form comprises the revealed scriptures. These reformed enemies include Daityas, Danavas, Gandharvas, Siddhas, Vidyadharas, Chalanas, Yakshas, Rakshasas, Pichashchas, Bhutas, Pramatas, and Nayakas, and also ourselves, and many others like us. Some of us have become attracted to you because of exceptional hatred, while others have become attracted because of their mood of devotion based on lust. But the demigods and others, infatuated by material goodness, feel no such attraction for you. Whoa. Purport. Srila Jiva Goswami explains this passage as follows. The Gandharvas, Siddhas, Vidyadharas, Chalanas are adversaries of the Supreme Lord when they follow the lead of the Daityas and Danava demons. The Yakshas, Rakshasas, and Pichachas, and so on, tend to be inimical because they are generally covered by ignorance. There are some rascals in the pure mode of ignorance, like Shishupal and Paundraka, who are totally absorbed in meditation on the Lord. as their enemy. And this fixed consciousness earns them liberation. Others, in a mixed condition of passion and ignorance, associate with the Lord with a desire for position and prestige. Maharaj Bali, sees himself as belonging to this category. Yet Lord Vishnu favored Bali by becoming his doorkeeper in the subterranean region of Sutala, just as he favored the demons by killing and liberating them, and the Gandharvas by engaging them in singing his glories. On the other hand, the Lord awards sense gratification to those demons who are proud of their being situated in the mode of goodness. Thus they become deluded and forget him. Text 44. What to speak of ourselves, O Lord of all perfect yogis? Even the greatest mystics do not know what your spiritual power of delusion is or how it acts. Purport. Systematic understanding of something should include knowledge of both its sarupa, or essential identity, and also its visheshas, the attributes that make it different from other things. Maya, the energy underlying all material existence, is more subtle than ordinary phenomena. Only God and his liberated devotees, therefore, can know its sarupa and vishesha. Text 45. Please be merciful to me, so that I may get out of the blind well of family life, my false home, and find the true shelter of your lotus feet, which selfless sages always seek. Then, either alone or in the company of great saints, who are the friends of everyone, I may wander freely, finding life's necessities at the feet of the universally charitable trees. Freedom. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti states that in response to Bali's prayers, Sri Krishna invited him to choose some benediction, and in this verse, Bali submits his request. Bali begs to be relieved from the entanglement of material life, so that he will be free to leave home and wander in the wilderness, with only the Lord's lotus feet as his shelter. For his subsistence, Bali proposes, he will take help from the forest trees, at whose feet are fruits to eat and leaves to sleep on, for all to use as needed. And if the Lord is especially merciful to him, Bali hopes, he will not have to wander alone, but will be allowed to travel in the company of Lord Krishna's devotees. Hare Krishna. Text 46. O Lord of all subordinate creatures, please tell us what to do, and thus free us of all sin. One who faithfully executes, O Master, is no longer obliged to follow the ordinary Vedic rites. Purport. The Acharyas explained Bali's thoughts as follows. Reflecting on the possibility that his request for immediate deliverance may have been too bold, Bali Maharaj considers that first he will need to become sufficiently purified. In any case, he thinks, Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram must have come to him for some specific purpose. If he can receive the Lord's order and carry it out, that will be his best opportunity for purification. Indeed, as Bali states, a devotee acting under the personality of Godhead's instruction need no longer follow the sacrificial injunctions and prohibitions of the Vedas. Text 47. The Supreme Lord said, during the age of the first month, the sage Marichi had 6 sons by his wife Orna. They were all exalted demigods, but once they laughed at Lord Brahma when they saw him preparing to have sex with his own daughter. 48 and 49. Because of that improper act, they immediately entered a demoniac form of life, and thus they took birth as sons of Hiranyakashipu. The goddess Yogamaya then took them away from Hiranyakashipu, and they were born again from Devaki's womb. After this, O king, Kamsa murdered them. Devaki still laments for them, thinking of them as her sons. These same sons of Marichi are now living here with you. Purport. Acharyas Sridhar Swami and Vishwanath Chakrabarti explain that after taking Marichi's 6 sons from Hiranyakashipu, Lord Krishna's Yogamaya first made them pass through one more life as children of another great demon, Kalanemi, and then she finally transferred them to the womb of Devaki. Text 50. We wish to take them from this place to dispel their mother's sorrow. Then, released from their curse and freed from their suffering, from all suffering, they will return to their home in heaven. Purport. As pointed out by Srila Prabhupada in his purports to chapter 2, texts 5 and 8 of this canto, Marichi's sons were condemned for their offense against Lord Brahma, and in addition, Hiranyakashipu once cursed them to be killed by their own father in a future life. This curse was fulfilled by Vasudeva's letting Kamsa murder them one by one. 51. By my grace, these 6, Smara, Udgita, Parishvanga, Patanga, Chadrabrit, and Grini, will return to the abode of pure saints. Purport. These are the names of the 6 children. These are the names the 6 children first had when they were sons of Marichi. The oldest, Smara, was called Kirtiman when born again to Vasudeva, as recorded in Srimad-Bhagavatam 10.1.57. Kirtimantam pramatajam kangsaya nakarundubihi arpayam asakritrena sonritad atibivadaha. Vasudeva was very much disturbed by the fear of becoming a liar, by breaking his promise. Thus, with great pain, he delivered his firstborn son, named Kirtiman, into the hands of Kamsa. 52. Shukadeva Goswami continued. After saying this, Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram, having been duly worshipped by Bali Maharaj, took the 6 sons and returned to Dwarka, where they presented them to their mother. Text 53. When she saw her lost children, Goddess Devaki felt such affection for them that milk flowed from her breasts. She embraced them and took them onto her lap, smelling their heads again and again. Text 54. Lovingly she let her sons drink from her breast, which became wet with milk just by their touch. She was entranced by the same illusory energy of Lord that initiates the creation of the universe. Purport. In the Goswami, the word Shristi can here also refer to the creative process by which Lord Vishnu's Yogamaya arranges the settings and situations of his pastimes. There is indeed no question of Devaki being affected by the material aspect of Maya. Text 55 and 56. By drinking her nectarian milk, the remnants of what Krishna himself had previously drunk, the 6 sons touched the transcendental body of the Lord, Narayana, and this contact awakened them to their original identities. They bowed down to Govinda, Devaki, their father, and Balaram, and then, as everyone looked on, they left for the abode of the demigods. Purport. Lord Krishna remained as an infant with Devaki and Vasudeva for only a very short time. First, the Lord appeared before them in his 4-armed Vishnu form, and after hearing their prayers, he changed himself into an apparently ordinary infant for their pleasure. But to save Krishna from suffering, his brothers, his brother's fate, Vasudeva once removed him from Kamsa's prison. Just before Vasudeva took him away, Mother Devaki suckled Krishna once so that he would not feel thirsty during the long trip to Nanda Braj. This we learn from the commentary of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti. Text 57. Seeing her sons return from death and then depart again, saintly Devaki was struck with wonder. O king, she concluded that this was all simply an illusion created by Krishna. Text 58. Sri Krishna, the Supreme Lord, the Lord of unlimited valor, performed countless pastimes, just as amazing as this one, O descendant of bards. 59. Sri Sutta Goswami said, this pastime enacted by Lord Murari, whose fame is eternal, totally destroys the sins of the universe and serves as the transcendental ornament for his devotees' ears. Anyone who carefully hears or narrates this pastime, as recounted by the venerable son of Vyasa, will be able to fix his mind in meditation on the Supreme Lord and attain to the all-auspicious kingdom of God. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, hearing the wonderful events of Lord Krishna's life destroys sins in a manner that is perfect, alam, because it is easy. I think I'll repeat that. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, hearing the wonderful events of Lord Krishna's life destroys sins in a manner that is perfect, alam, because it is easy. Anyone can easily participate in this hearing, and those who become devoted to Krishna always enjoy wearing on their ears the ornaments of topics concerning him. Not only those who were present at the time of their occurrence, but also Shukadev Goswami, Sutta Goswami, all who have heard since, and everyone in the universe who will hear in the future, all are blessed by the continuous recital of Lord Krishna's transcendental glories. Haribo! This is the 6th year I've been doing this, every single day. Thus end the purports of the humble servant of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, to the 10th canto, 85th chapter of Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled Lord Krishna Instructs Vasudeva and Retrieves Devaki's Sons. Jai Shri Krishna Balaram Shri Jai, Bali Maharaj Shri Jai, Vasudeva and Devaki Shri Jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bo. Hare Krishna. You can't make that up. All the details and the way all the details connect together and the personalities and the philosophy. Can't make it up. Now we know what the words mean. God is all powerful. God is great. Okay. It's open mic time. Put on your thinking caps. There was a lot of stuff there to think about, a lot of stuff to even remember what was said. Yes, Shwetadweep, start us off. Go ahead.
After Vasudeva's glorification of Krishna. Krishna responds back with few verses, and that pacifies Vasudeva. I'm not able to understand the instructions of Krishna how did it pacify Vasudeva? Would you be able to summarize the instructions?
Well, it's not, what's the word, academic. It's not that you can just dissect it. I mean, some of the verses are dissected in terms of Sanskrit grammar and how the words fit together and everything. When it comes to describing the creation of the universe and anyway how the Sanskrit language works, but in terms of the relationship and how what Krishna said pacified him in such an easy way, it's the same thing as when the sages glorified Krishna. Krishna glorified the sages. It was bewildering to them because they saw him as the supreme absolute truth, and he was glorifying them. The supreme absolute truth was glorifying them, and they couldn't understand that. They just couldn't. They couldn't accommodate the fact that the absolute truth was saying something to them that would make them appear superior to the absolute truth. So it's the same kind of thing, that Krishna's words, bewildered Devaki, Vasudeva in such a way that he was able to, regain his son, his fatherhood of Krishna. Because actually no one can be the father of Krishna in reality. It's all the, Krishna's mercy, just like everything else is. I thought that was the essence of the whole chapter. And anybody who reads this chapter and actually hears it, and thinks for a second that they shouldn't fall down at Krishna's feet and become his devotee and serve him, and nothing else and no one else, he's got to have his head examined, We're worshiping Krishna for a good reason, not just because of some sentiment or because we're, feeling, bereft or whatever. We're worshiping Krishna because he's the real thing, real deal. He's got the goods. He has all the goods. So how he can invoke Devaki's motherhood to them, and at the same time go to Sutal and bring back her dead sons and give them to her to suckle again. That it's inconceivable. Therefore, Jiva Goswami says in the Tattva Sandarbha that unless you can actually understand and accept that Krishna is inconceivable, that he can do anything, that he is actually all-powerful, then you can't understand him. And therefore, even modern-day religionists, they say God is great, but they cannot accommodate a personal form of God. Therefore, you scratch deep enough and you'll find a Mayavadi, almost always. Because they can't understand how the sky was created by a person. When in fact, if they really believed in God and if they really believed their own philosophy, they would say, oh, how wonderful Krishna is that he can do that. And that's the difference. So it's Krishna's Yogamaya energy that plays both one against the other in order to, make all the relationships and Krishna's godhood and his relationship as son or whatever possible. So it's not possible to understand it by ordinary logic. Something? Hare Krishna. Yes, Bhakti Doug. I knew you had something coming.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I was just blown away by Bali Maharaj, by his prayers to Krishna and his way of receiving him, how he just completely fell at his feet and repeatedly grabbed Krishna's feet. And
unbelievable.
It described that his heart he was speaking from his heart, which was melting out of pure affection. And that was just, wow, just an image. And it was saying just his attitude of how he has so much wealth, how he has so much opulence, but he sees that it all is coming from Krishna. And later on it described that in one of the purports how actually the Bali was suggesting how certain, let alone the demons, but different jnanis and yogis who have all this like knowledge and all these powers, how they can't approach Krishna because of that pride and that envy, but he was completely devoid of it. So he was given all this opulence, yet he's still a pure devotee, and he sees,
amazing. And yet some, he said, who actually just were so proud and so ignorant that they actually, pasted on arms and thought that they were him. And they became so absorbed in his thought of his form that they got liberated through that. That's, only Krishna can do that. Even the other forms of God can't do that. They don't do that. All right, so all glories to Krishna's transcendental pastimes. So we just heard at the end of this chapter, liberate anyone who hears, recites them. Just keep trying to understand. Keep reading these books over and over again. I'm just saying this because I've been doing this for 47 years. More than double some of you, or close to it, right? And I'm telling you, if you just keep doing this, gradually it'll sink in, and you'll be able to understand. And as you do, you'll be able to actually think of Krishna spontaneously. And then when you hear, it will be a whole other thing. Then you'll be ready to go back to Godhead, ready to leave this body, ready to jump out of this body. Hare Krishna. Okay, we'll finish there. Anybody from cyberspace had something to say? Okay.
I have one small question.
Yes, please. Abhaya, fearlessly, lead us to the question.
I don't know how to put it exactly, but in text 9, can I just read the small purport?
Yes, please.
It says, in accordance with the general process of creation, speech always becomes audible in stages, which proceed from subtle inner impulse to outward expression. These stages are mentioned in the mantras of the Rig Veda. The translation is, discriminating brahmanas know of 4 progressive stages of language. 3 of these remain hidden within the heart as imperceptible vibrations, while the 4th stage is what people ordinarily understand as speech. I was just kind of wondering what that part about the imperceptible vibrations.
Because the creation of the universe is done from subtle to gross. There are stages of the creation. When the seed is placed in the womb of the mother, at first it's practically invisible, and then there's a little pea, and then gradually that pea grows into a form, and then all the holes and everything in the body comes out, and it's created from subtle to gross. So speech is like that. The subtle body is like that. The original sound that is there within us is called nadi. You've heard of the term nadi? Nadis are different centers of where the energies all come together in the body, and sound generates from that first, before it goes to the conception, before it goes to the sound, and then to the tongue, and then out the voice, out the ears. It's the process of creation applied to one particular part of the creation, speech and sound, which comes from subtle to gross. And there's more details of those stages, but we don't have time to get into it now. But it's obvious. You think, then you feel, then you will, then you do. No one just acts. First of all, you have to think, then you have to feel, then you have to will, make a plan, and then you act. So similarly with the speech. Speech is a part of the action. So the subtle forms of sound, before it comes out of the mouth, goes through a similar four-stage creative process. Hare Krishna. Okay, we'll stop there. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Krishna and Balaram ki jai. Gaur Premanandi, see you tomorrow night, 6 o'clock, right here at the live studios at Radha Lane, Houston, Texas, just down the road, the footpath from Shri Shri Radha Nila Madhava. Hare Krishna.